So thanks everyone for joining us today. We're hearing from a bunch of Stanford clinical research coordinators about research underway. Very happy to have with us Jiwon. I've known her for a couple of years now. She's doing really interesting work in what she calls looking behavior, and she's here to talk about this research that she's doing now. I hope everyone will think about it participating. So take it away, Jawan.
Thank you, and thanks for having me in this meeting. I'm Jiwon. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in psychology at Stanford. And as Robin introduced, I'm looking into the eye behavior and Parkinson's or Parkinsonisms. Um, Before I jump right into what my study is about in detail, I'd like to introduce my team. So Justin Gardner, he's an associate professor in psychology, and he's the principal investigator for this project. And we have Hengame Zahid, who's a clinical assistant professor in neurology, and she's specialized in movement disorder. We also have Hyunwoo Gu, who's a very talented third-year grad student in psychology in my lab. And finally, it's me. Yeah, Jiwon. I'm a postdoc in psychology and neuroscience again. So I'm looking into the eyes, and eyes are very fascinating organs. It's directly connected to the brain, and every time, like even though you are not conscious about it, human eyes move every 200 to 300 milliseconds. Although we think we have like fully control of where to look at, that's not true. Most of the time, our eyes are like rolling around in a way that we didn't really mean to, which means the brain has to make the decision of where to relocate these eyes 3 to 5 times in a second. So when you really think of these eye movements, there are these two big components that play in. One of which is the muscle movements. So your eyes are connected to a lot of like muscles, and those muscles actually like rotate the eyes where to look at. And there is this cognition part, which in charge of in the context like you're more engaged in the context of where to look at. And the cognitive process affects to where to look at. And this is an example of a person seeing a picture, and this yellow line indicates where this person looked at. So this person first looked at this, center point, and then like the eyes moved around in this sequence. And when you second time showing the same image, and then you can see that the pattern of this eye movements has changed completely in a different way. So this study really demonstrate how these eye movements can be changed by and large depending on the context or depending on your cognitive processes. And degeneration also affects to the eye movement. And here is one example of healthy participants' eye movements. So here the green line shows an object moving in a certain way, and the task was to this participant was literally like just look at and follow that object. And this red line shows how this person's eye had moved. And when you compare it to a Parkinson's patient, then you can see that the eye movement gets a lot of, it's jittering a lot compared to the healthy control participant. And also it offsets by and large from the object. So when your brain has damage or it gets degenerated, then your eye movements also show those symptoms. And there are a lot of, previous studies that show that eye movements can be differentiated, or eye movements seems oddities as you develop movement disorders. And it's not only the movement disorder, but how specific it can tell different disease from the eye movements. So for example, this graph here shows what kind of aspects can 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 tell you that this differences between the different type of movement disorders. So for example, here you can see this Parkinson's disease can be differentiated from multiple systems of atrophy, progressive supranuclear palsy, Huntington's disease, or cortical basal syndrome, Alzheimer's disease. And even within the same Parkinson's disease, depending on how much of cognitive impairment you have developed, you depending your eye movements and the features of eye movements can distinguish the level of this cognitive impairment in one movement disorder disease category. So really what I want to do is I want to develop a model that can predict the next eye movement based on the past eye movement sequences. And particularly, I want to compare this model's prediction performance between the healthy participants' data to the patients who have developed neurodegeneration, such as Parkinson, cortical basal syndrome, PSP, MSA, or Huntington's disease, and so on. So for this experiment, the experiment data collection will happen at Stanford campus in Utai Neuroscience building. And when you participate, you will wear this eye tracking glasses. And after you pass some eligibility test, you will participate in some walking tasks and computer-based search tasks. The study duration will not be more than 2 hours. I am targeting for 1.5 hours at the maximum. And you will be compensated with $50 Amazon gift card per hour with parking. To participate, you have to be able to walk around yourself. Using like canes or other like systems is fine, but you have to be more of like independent of like walking, and you should not develop dementia or have any report in cognitive decline. And you have to have either Parkinson's, MSA, PSP, CBD, or Huntington's disease. Also, this is a little bit tricky criteria, which is like you have to have either normal or corrected to normal vision with contact lenses. Because this particular experiment requires you to wear an eye tracking glasses. You can't really use your own glasses. So that's a little bit tricky criteria, I would say. And you have to be between 40 to 80 years old. So to
And
participate,
Jiwon, I'm sorry, could you
yes.
just go back to the last slide? I just had a couple questions.
Mhm.
And you're also looking for normal controls, are you?
Right now, I'm not looking for normal
Okay,
controls,
just looking
but
for
yeah, just for looking for
those
yeah,
items on number 3. Okay,
right.
and can people, you said using a cane is fine. Is using a walker fine?
It is fine.
Okay,
Uh, yes, but it involves some amount of walking. Like one walk would take like 5 minutes.
okay,
So
all
you
right.
have to yeah, keep that in mind.
Okay, all right. So I
Yeah,
have to be able to walk independently with a walker or a cane, but
right.
have to feel comfortable, safe walking for 5 minutes,
Exactly.
for example.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. I wanted to ask about should not have dementia or reports of cognitive decline.
Mm-hmm.
So As I get older and older and into my 60s now, I see that, I do have some cognitive slowing.
That's
I,
yeah.
I,
I guess yeah, that's completely natural thing, I think, and it's
okay,
fine. And if you are, what I'm saying here as a criteria is that you didn't get any report from your caregiver or your doctor
okay,
that as far as you were not like mentioned by your doctor that you are showing some decline in your cognition, then that's completely fine.
okay,
And as I mentioned in my previous slide, one of this eligibility tests is MoCA test. So if you're like, not sure about your the level of cognitive decline, you can just contact me and I can just administer this MoCA test on you once you come to the campus. And depending on the scores, you will be able to continue doing the participating in the study or not.
okay. So you don't wear the eye tracking glasses for the eligibility test. You wear the eye tracking glasses for the other parts.
Well, once you come to my lab and
Yep.
participating, then you will be started wearing this eye tracking glasses. But
Okay.
if you don't pass the eligibility test, then I have to like throw all the data that I collected from you. That's our
I see.
protocol. Yeah.
Okay. So even as soon as you get there, basically you put on the eye tracking glasses and that's part of your study.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the clarification question.
Yeah.
So here's a QR code that you can scan with your camera, with your phone. It will ask you some very basic like contacts so that I can reach back to you. Otherwise, you can just directly shoot me an email or message, it would be fine too. And literally, that's it. That's all I prepared for this time. Thank you.
Okay. Let me see. I had one other question, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit unrelated, but what does this have to do with psychology, Jiwon?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, well, while a lot of time when people think about psychology, they associate it with mental health psychology most of the time, I know. And that's not the whole scope of psychology study. We are very interested in how human functions. So that's why like brain science or more specifically cognitive brain science is one of the main study area in psychology, and that's where
Okay.
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And is it correct? I think you've said this, but I just wanted to be sure that one point of your study is to eventually be part of the literature that can look at someone's eye movement and detect what disorder they have.
Right. So as
Okay,
I yes, so where did it go?
you had
Yes.
that one. Yeah.
So one of the I heard that one of the challenges for this movement disorder is it's really hard to diagnose the disease correctly or categorize them correctly because they show some visible symptoms that are very similar across like Parkinson's or CBDs and etc. And our team believes that eye movement is actually can be one very good candidate for distinguishing or diagnosing these different types of disease more correctly, more faster way. And like eye movements are very subtle, but we also one of our hypotheses is that even before they show some more significant, symptoms of movement, for example, like tremor. Maybe it could be possible that eyes are already showing some of like oddities. And if we can capture those, early symptoms before they, go in doctor's office for diagnosis, then it'll be a very beneficial or invaluable information for us to um, making another like breakthrough for this movement disorder in the future.
Yeah. So would we call this also a biomarker? Uh,
Right.
eye movement biomarker. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that'd
So
be terrific to have a non-invasive biomarker like this.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our ultimate goal for this study, trying to find some early biomarkers or early like symptoms in these kind of disease. And even if we can like distinguish these different type of like movement disorder early on, that will be like huge benefit for the science community as well as the patients, I believe.
Okay. And a lot of these on this slide are not necessarily movement disorders. Well, Alzheimer's disease, not really, and FTD,
Yeah, it's
not
just
really
showing that different type of neurodegenerative disease can
disease.
be you can get some information or like showing some distinctions in like subcategories or subcategories of these disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, I kind of have two questions related, but I'm not really going to word them very well. Um, so forgive me, but I'm sure
It's all right. Yeah.
you're used
Yeah,
to this.
try.
I see, like on this, you have the x-axis as cognitive impairment. So the
Right.
worst of cognitive impairment, people are grouped at the right end,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want people with dementia or reported cognitive decline in your
Right.
study. What is it about cognitive impairment or dementia that will or perhaps might change someone's eye movements?
Yeah, so that goes back to my previous slide here,
Yeah.
where I showed your pattern of eye movement sequence, or how the sequence of like how you relocated your eyes in different position can be
Mhm,
completely different depending on your cognitive process. And although why you, as you mentioned, in this study, we're not particularly looking for recruiting people who already developed degeneration or cognitive impairment in the brain.
mhm,
Um, Definitely like cognitive part plays a huge role in making eye movements. And yeah, that's what is shown in this figure too.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Okay, so so if someone has cognitive impairment, or say they even have dementia,
Mm-hmm.
they may not be able, on your second picture that you had, memory retrieval, they may
Yeah.
not be able to retrieve those memories, and so um,
Yeah.
their eye movements on the second time they see the picture will be totally different because they
Right.
have no memory. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't realize this, but when you had the first picture and the second picture,
Mm-hmm.
so we normally look at a picture differently if we've already a photograph, if we've already
Yeah.
seen it once, oh, how bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, that's very, shocking, I think.
Yeah, it's shocking
Yeah.
to me. I would have thought I'd just look at it the same way. Yeah.
But like when you think about it in this way, that okay, you already, when you first observe something new, then you want to explore that more deeply.
Right.
And when you see it the second time, you already have some amount of information in your memory, or you're familiar to the picture. So you don't necessarily want to go over the same location that you already examined or explored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you think in that way, it makes totally sense that your eye movements can be like very different from the first time you see it.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, it is shocking.
Yeah.
Um, let me see. I had another question. Oh, are the eye tracking glasses that people wear,
Hmm.
is it anything similar to what we experience when we see an optometrist or an ophthalmologist? Or is there any
Mm.
sort of exam? Like in an ophthalmology, you have these peripheral things and you track
Uh-huh.
you track little eye or little blops on the screen and things.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
is it anything similar to what we might have
Mm.
experienced before in a doctor's office,
Well,
or totally different?
actually, it's very similar to just the regular glasses.
Okay. All right.
The
Okay.
only difference is like it's wired to a mobile phone. So it's not like wire free, unfortunately. And
Uh-huh.
it has like two cameras that's facing towards to your eyes, so that
Okay.
these cameras are the cameras that capture your eye movement. And
Okay.
there's a camera that's facing toward to the outside. So it's the camera that records the scene that you're seeing.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, that's the biggest difference between the regular correct
Glasses. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean glasses
And
to the
and
yeah.
um and I guess the cameras that face the eyeballs, they don't touch the eye or anything.
No, no, no,
Yeah. Okay.
they
And
don't. Yeah.
I imagine the only thing is that it might seem strange. It might seem, just
Mm,
unusual to have something, you know,
right.
there in front of your eye.
Right.
Okay.
But it doesn't really, well, I would say that it's very similar to the experience where you just wear um glasses that has a little thicker like frame. So
Okay.
you would see the frame that it doesn't really bother your sight.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
you're not aware of the cameras?
I don't think so. When I, personally, tried it, I
Yeah.
don't think that, yeah, I would have very conscious. I wasn't very conscious about like the cameras.
Okay. All right. So, safety, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of walking, you should have no problem because part of your exam is a little walking test, right?
Right.
You said for about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah. So, one's vision is not obstructed such that they can still be safe walking. They
Oh
can,
yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Great. All right. Well, I have no concept of what this two
Yeah.
cameras get your eyeball is, but okay.
Yeah. So far I've collected one data set with PSP participant, and
Okay.
she was completely fine with like walking around with these glasses. So I'm pretty confident that there is no, safety issue that could arise from this eye tracker glasses.
Okay, great. And you said you're shooting for 1.5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but in any case, you commit to less than 2 hours, a $50 Amazon gift card, and then you pay for parking or
Yeah,
reimburse
and
parking or
$50 per hour.
per hour. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And if it's only an hour and a half, do you only get $75 gift card?
We can talk about it in my
Okay,
office.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, and parking you pay for or you reimburse?
Um, I think the easier way is I can pay for.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I can
I think that's
also,
easier too.
yeah,
Less hassle for people coming on campus who,
yeah,
if parking is a extreme hassle if you don't have to come to campus, you don't want to.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, great. All right. Well, very good. Thank you so much, Jiwon.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll
Appreciate it.
stop sharing it.
Okay, I
Okay.
don't see if there are any questions. I don't think so. So, I'll talk to you on
All
Sunday
right.
again.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Thanks so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.